What's up, Automation Nation? This is Jeff Bannock, and today I am so privileged to have Jeff J.Hunter with me, the virtual assistant slash virtual team master. He is helping people 10x their business by growing virtual teams, has been featured on things like CBS. She's been in Inc. and has had over 50 different virtual teams assistants. So I'm going to hand this over to Jeff and let you tell your story and get us rolling.
Oh, man. Well, my story goes back to just being one of those 60, 70-hour-a-week entrepreneurs. And actually, before I was an entrepreneur, I was always a workaholic. I've been in IT my whole life. I loved everything that I do. I consume. Since my first job in high school, being an IT guy and kind of working my way up. And then I became the IT coordinator for a school district. I did that for 5 years, loved every year of it. I was recruited by Philips Electronics to become a project manager for them. Worked my way up the corporate ladder, and I think in the corporate world, whenever you do something good and you become a more senior project manager or any position, they put a number at the end of your title. So I think I was a project manager 3 by the time I had left. But it's a really rewarding year. I actually was, many years of doing that, but when I left the corporate world per se, I was a 6-figure project manager, had a lot of fun, but I was overworked. I was overwhelmed, stressed, and basically became a slave to my own job.
Sure.
When I started realizing, for me, I've always been in kind of virtual teams, virtual project management, and that's where I really excel at. And I started realizing, you know what? This is a skill set that I could apply to so many things. I could build virtual teams, I could get projects done, and I can do it at fraction of a cost than an in-house team because you could outsource.
Right.
And when I kind of harnessed that, I said, wow, I could probably do this on my own. And I didn't feel really valued at my job. They had made some policy changes, changed me from an hourly to a salaried employee, still expected me to work 60 hours a week. And just all the stuff that didn't make me feel too good about my job. And I actually said, you know what? I'm going to go and do this myself. I'm going to build my own team. I took my wife and my kid, flew to the Philippines for a month, built out the rest of my team. Now I have an amazing team. I have over 50 virtual assistants now. I've hired hundreds of virtual assistants over the years for myself and my clients. And basically my job now is to save entrepreneurs from being slaves to their businesses.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Entrepreneurs are the only people crazy enough. It's a famous quote. I hate to be cliche, but it's totally true. Entrepreneurs are the only people crazy enough to work an 80-hour work week to escape a 40-hour work week.
It's so true, man. I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people that are listening to my podcast run into is they're like one-man shows or one-woman shows, and they're trying to do it all themselves when they don't realize that they could hire out a virtual team or automate certain things and make things so much easier.
Yeah.
So really, what is your specialty? Explain to us about building virtual teams and using virtual assistants.
Well, the first thing you got to know is what the heck you do with a virtual team, right? So, and you know what? I'll send you a link you can put in your podcast, put in your summary.
Please do.
And by the way, Jeff, I just want to thank you for having me, and I'm just so blessed. I'm just so excited. The real reason why I do this is because I have a really successful business. It's called VA Staffer. I have a team of over 50 VAs. They work for me. They work for my clients. And to be honest with you, I get 7 to 10 inquiries every day to become a client of mine. And I got to the point to where I can't even accept more clients. Like the only clients I work with are like, 7, 8-figure influencers, businesses, domo.com, outreach.io. These, tech companies are really good clients of mine for outsourcing. I have influencers like, Liz Benny and some employees that work at ClickFunnels and things like that, I've always been kind of like the guy behind the scenes.
Right.
And I can tell you, I put together this list if you want to put this link, but the top 17 tasks that every business should outsource to a VA.
Perfect. That's awesome.
there's so many amazing things that you can have a virtual assistant do for you. I mean, a couple of them, guys, when you download this, and I'll make sure to get you the link, guys.
Yeah.
But when you download this, like online research, there's absolutely no way we should be spending our time looking up our competitors,
Right.
looking at product research.
Oh, that's brilliant.
How important it is as a business owner to reevaluate and say, hey, what's the market doing right now?
Oh, 100%.
What are my competitors charging? What are the packages?
Right.
Hell,
what ads are working? Yeah.
have your VA create a fake Gmail account and go through a process of your competitors and see what they're doing, right?
Such a good use of that's such a good use of their time. That's awesome. That's great, dude. Yes.
This one's huge. Lead generation.
Right.
Lead generation. Having your team go out and just find new leads for you and collecting contacts and stuff like that. There's 17 other things in here, guys, that,
Awesome.
check it out.
That's exciting.
And I really put it together because I really do want people to understand how much time they're wasting doing stuff that someone else can do for $10 an hour or less. It's unbelievable how we overwork ourselves, and it's not usually because we enjoy it. We tell ourselves we enjoy it because we like the fruit that comes from it.
Right.
But the Gary Vaynerchuks, the Grant Cardones, these guys tell you work harder, hustle, right? They've made it sexy to hustle. Right. And I just am out there saying it's not about the amount of work that you do. It's about the quality of work that you do.
Right.
And a lot of times we're not focused. And that's why I created the 90-10 Life program. The 90-10 Life is literally that philosophy of saying, okay, 90% of the things in my business are useless for me to do. They're important, but they're useless that I do them. What do I need to do? I need to focus on building relationships. I need to focus on, being on podcasts. I need to focus on, building really valuable relationships through sales, through marketing, through webinars, through whatever that medium may be, and and building teams. That's what I do. Like, that's all I want to do. And every day I'm just blessed that my own team gives me that ability. My wife gives me that ability. So I'm focused on what I want to do every day in my business.
So how does someone know when they're at a stage that they need a VA or a virtual team, or when are those like key points where they know, okay, I'm at a point I need some help?
Well, I get asked that every day. And you know what? I can tell you the number one excuse, which I bet someone watching this right now is going to say to me, and I'm going to disprove it right here.
Awesome.
Is I want a VA, but I don't know what they would do for me. I already discredited that excuse with this guide. The second one is I want a VA, but I can't afford a virtual assistant, right? Now, that's a good one. Except what if you actually knew how to use a virtual assistant in ways that generate money for you?
Right.
So, question, if you hired someone for, let's say, $750 a month,
okay,
and that person made you $1,500 a month, right? Then how many people would you hire?
As many as I can, my friend.
Absolutely. I get the credit card out and start swiping.
Right. I'll take out loans. What do I need to do, right?
And if you're hiring the right way, I have the process called the 246 Freedom Pathway. If you're hiring the right way, there is a way that you can actually have your team trained up to do things for you that make you money in 30 days or less, so they pay for themselves. And
what is the 246? What is that? You mentioned the 246 free. What is that?
So it's a strategy that I put together on how to actually train with less than 2 hours a day a virtual assistant to replace you in your business, to actually do things in your business that either create value and money for you, or to remove you from doing things so you can focus on making more money.
Awesome. Awesome. And how do people learn that technique from you? What is it? Where's that?
I have an online training. It's totally free. You can put the link in there. It's just 90-10 Life. If you just Google me, Jeff J. Hunter, 90-10 Life. I actually do the training for free.
Cool.
Usually I do it on Thursdays. I try to do it on a weekly basis, but sometimes things comes up. I'm traveling a lot.
Life happens, right, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on, it's just crazy to think, last year, just from last year, I've just been featured on so many different podcasts, and I was on TV. I was on CBS as their featured travel hacker for a segment, and I've been having a lot of fun, and I've been getting around the world. I was just in Australia. I was in New Zealand, Philippines. I took my wife. We've been to Korea. We've been all around the place, and all because of this opportunity of just spreading the message of how regular people can use outsourcing. You can use the same secrets that I've been doing for years and years with my executive, big 6,000 to 10,000 retainer clients. You could spend less than $500 a month, and you can have a killer person to work with you and truly develop your own brand and save you a ton of time.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's really the thing that I'm glad that I was able to bring you on and highlight that. And like you said, focus on your 5-10% that you're good at, and then outsource the rest, man. And there's like a saying. I think there's some saying about that, isn't there? Like something about focus on what you're best and outsource the rest, or something like that.
Oh man, I'm going to use that one. I haven't heard that, but I'm going to use that.
Yeah, it's like focused on what you're best and outsource the rest, is this saying. But yeah, it is. It's true. And every higher level person that I've ever worked with, dealt with, experienced, it boils down that that's what they do. Like even Gary Vee, speaking of him, he focuses on just living his life, running his business, and all of his content's made around him just doing his stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I think
I'll drop a bomb on people right now.
Go for it, brother.
And this might be good for you as a podcaster. So obviously I'm on a lot of podcasts, and it's funny because every podcaster always asks me this, like, man, I want to outsource stuff for my podcast, because I drop on a bomb like this, like evergreen content. Like that's one of the hardest things as an entrepreneur. We're so busy, doing fulfillment with our clients. We're not focused on our own business, right? It's like the shoemaker's kids have no shoes, right?
100%, dude. 100%.
Yeah. And to really be a great marketing agency, or, a consultant, or, whatever you're doing in your life, service-based, even a product-based business, if you're worried about making products, if you're worried about fulfilling orders, well, you're probably not doing your own marketing.
Sure.
Marketing is such an easy thing to do if you have a VA, because you can set up a process. I call them freedom recipes. I don't like standard operating procedures. I think no one wakes up in the morning, oh, I can't wait to do a standard operating procedure.
That's awesome.
I call them freedom recipes. They create freedom for us, and they have to be really structured like a recipe that anyone can follow. A couple eggs, a cup of flour, this and that, put it in the oven, right?
That's
so
brilliant.
Check this out. Every podcast you do, I'm going to throw this one in there. Every podcast you do, afterwards you get that video uploaded onto your YouTube or whatever you're putting it on. And then you've probably got the Zoom recording, so it's doing an audio MP3 file as well. You're going to put that in your website. Now, that's what you do. Now, what if after that's done, you had a VA who was transcribing your show notes, who was pulling out cool quotes from the thing,
right,
and making it into quote pictures, right, and scheduling it on your social media, and then putting it on your website, and
right,
just repurposing your content and putting a content calendar up there for a year's worth of just telling people about a previous blog, right? And a previous podcast. Like there's so many different things. For me too, I have a VA that every time I'm on a podcast, every time I'm on a show or whatever I'm at, or I'm mentioned on Twitter or whatever, just collects all that stuff and then puts it into a spreadsheet, takes screenshots of it all, and then in my media section on my website just updates it with the newest and latest, like where I've been, like even that kind of stuff. Like it takes time to do. We don't do it because it's not important to us. We'd rather be doing amazing things, not focusing on the past. We're focusing on the future. See, I use a lot of my VAs to do both.
Right.
I have my VAs do inbound inquiries, future sales, and then I have them do follow-up, leads, all this kind of stuff. So I get to live in the present, and I get to plan for the future. Execution's done elsewhere.
So here's a question I have to ask you is, how do I decide what tasks a VA should be doing? Because it's not like, it sounds like a VA, if depending on how much you're willing to pay, will do almost anything. Almost depending on how hard.
You know, there's a couple things, and I do go over this more on my online training, guys.
Nice.
But the problem right now with hiring VAs is that, see, Upwork, Freelance, Fiverr, all these websites, they get paid when you hire people.
Sure.
So they are incentivized
Right.
to make it easy for you to hire, PS, the wrong people.
I hear the stories all the time, man.
Yeah. And every single one of those websites has a common theme. You know what it is? There's a picture. There's a profile that's it says what they know how to do, supposedly, or at least what they say they know how to do. Usually a rating, which if you know anything about Amazon reviews, well, you know, reviews are reviews. And quite frankly, people aren't doing the right methods. They're not using the right process on screening. So what happens is you're hiring the wrong people. You're wasting so much time hiring the wrong people and training the wrong people that end up leaving anyway, and then you're back to square one. And that's what I want to. That's what I want to have. That's what I want every entrepreneur to avoid. Like, that's my mission. I really want people to have amazing relationships, build quality teams, even a single virtual assistant. You might not even need a VA. You might just need a freelancer to come in and spend a few hours a week to help you out doing something. And even that, it can just take your business to such a huge direction and get so much momentum. Oh man, you know, one of the things I'm doing right now is LinkedIn gold mining.
Okay.
I just have because, you know, LinkedIn is such a great, powerful network. Everyone puts all their information up there. You know everything about it because they want to. Let's be honest. LinkedIn is a bunch of people that are opportunists and they want to look good.
Right.
So they put a lot of information on there.
Sure.
So if you look at someone's LinkedIn profile and can't figure out what their problems are and what they want to do in life, you know, let's just be honest. You know, maybe marketing is not your thing. You know?
That's awesome.
So like, you know, just there's so many, to answer your question, there's so many different ways to use a VA, but really I always recommend people, how can you use someone to make you money right away? That's the first thing. It's like, I always go for the low hanging fruit. What are things that I'm not doing that I know if I did, I'd actually make more money? That's what I always do.
Right. So, and then also, okay, so the other thing that I hear all the time when I talk to people about VAs is the state-based versus the overseas-based and that, you know, struggle. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I mean, I have both. So, you know, my VA who does my Facebook group and she does my Instagram. Her name's Janie. She lives out of Texas, right outside Houston. She's been working with me for a year or two, and she's, you know, everything that makes me look good. You know, like for me, when you hire a VA, I just want to be completely transparent with people. The reason why you hire a VA is to make you look good.
Sure.
That's the bottom line. And I even said that to one of my VAs this morning, Mary. She helps me do my content for my Facebook groups. And I have a couple of opportunities that are coming up to be featured in, you know, some speaking arrangements and things like that, where they are asking me to develop my story and kind of what I'm going to be presenting. And she's kind of drafting that for me right now. And she knows my story. She's been on my webinars, my website. You know, I'm very transparent. You can find me. And so she works on kind of drafting that story and kind of like pitching like, hey, here's what Jeff J. Hunter is going to do for you. Right.
Gotcha.
And I told her this morning, I said, you know, your job is to make me look good. She goes, I know. Right. She knows. Every VA knows. But to get onto your question between the USA and the Philippines or wherever else. All right. Why don't you give him this too? Here's another guy. This here is the definitive virtual assistant salary guide.
Nice. Oh, that's going to be a good one.
Guess why I put this together? Because every single person that ever asked me says, how much should I pay my VA?
Oh, that's perfect. So, thank you so much.
Oh, man. Right here is a list of the pricing that you could see.
Oh, that's great.
Of the, you know, what you can expect to pay based on the different countries and kind of what they are. And
that's great information, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and I also have a little story about me and what my experiences were, because boy, if I could prevent anyone from making the mistakes I did, when I first started. I hired 26 virtual assistants my first year. One of them worked. So
do you speak on the separation of like warning flags to look out when hiring on your stuff, or can you speak on some of that now? Because I know that's one of the things that, you know, people when they're hiring, like, obviously if they don't show up for the appointment, maybe you shouldn't hire, you know, but
absolutely
subtle things.
Well, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you two stories. One of them, well, let me first give some pointers, guys. First pointer is make sure you have a really good screening process. You know, in my 9-10 Life program, I have a screening process that's like fine-tuned. You make sure that you have a great job description. You make sure you're doing proper screening. And, you know, the new thing that I've been starting that has been really helping is just the use of more video, you know. And depending on the type of role you have, if you're trying to hire a web developer or a ClickFunnels coder or whatever, they're probably not going to be good on video, you know. They're going to be techie. They're kind of nerdy, right? And I'm the same way. I to be honest with you, I'd rather put my desk back down into its, you know, into my like chair form,
right? And
just be in my hobbit hole. That's how I am.
Right.
But you know, so just make sure that you ask the right questions. Asking the right questions really make a big impact, because you can tell a lot about the person's needs and wants, as well as their own motivation and drive. And I can tell you this, you cannot train motivation. You cannot train someone to be a self-starter. You can't train someone to be passionate. Okay.
Right.
You can only motivate so much. The best motivation is self-motivation.
Sure.
So, you know, and going back to the USA versus Philippine thing, I just want to throw out there that, you know, you're going to spend more depending on where your talent is. But, you know, it's all about ROI. It's all about, look, if I'm hiring someone for this amount of money, like if, for example, if I'm paying $3,000 for a Facebook ads person and they're making me $10,000 a month, then it's not a big deal.
Right. No, that's definitely for sure. ROI is definitely a good indicator, KPI to be watching for as far as working with your VAs.
Oh, yeah.
So when should someone, one of the last questions we'll get before we wrap it up and talk a little bit about your course stuff, but when should someone like get maybe a manager of even VA? I mean, like, I have some people that I've worked with, they have 20, 30 VAs. I mean, like, is that, should you get a manager to manage your VAs or still manage them yourself, or how?
I do. I mean, I have 50 and I have what I call because I'm a project manager, like a real project manager, I have a hard time calling other people project managers. Like they really are. Okay. So my standard on PM is a little higher. And it's funny because one of my clients and one of my students, he's Nick Snap, shout out to this guy, but
nice.
He's a project manager as well. And he and I always talk about that. Like, there's a lot of people that say they're project managers and aren't. So, but what I call them are my project success team.
Okay.
So I do have, now I'll throw out a quick little smidge bit of hopefully some value knowledge right now.
Awesome.
You are doing everything in your business right now. So instead of making up excuses about how hard it is to train someone, turn on Camtasia or download OBS, Open Broadcast Studio or whatever, which is free, by the way.
Right. And
just start recording what you do every day and block it out. Like, hey, if you're working on a ClickFunnels page, or if you're working on, let's say you're working on a new email autoresponder, or maybe, you know, you're just, you know, following up with a client, record that, talk about what you're doing, and save that, upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video so that you, before someone is even hired on, they have some things that they can learn from you right away without you spending all your time doing it.
I like that. It's like a training video library. That's a brilliant one. I like that. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I talk about in the program, because, you know, that's one of the most painful parts of this process for most people is actually delegation. And for me, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I'm a master at delegation. And
nice.
I've spent a lot of years really trying to figure out how can I get, there's a trick to delegation. It's how do I get the most out of someone? How can I have them vested in what I want them to do? And here's the most important part. how can they feel like by doing something for me, they win, right?
Yeah.
And that's really key. And I think one of the advantages I've had of being a project manager over the years is that I've worked with diverse teams. I've worked with, doctors. I've worked with nurses. I've worked with, I used to be in the medical profession as a project manager. I used to be a healthcare project manager. So, I've done huge IT networks for hospitals where, they can't have mess ups because there's patients plugged in.
Right. Sure.
Millions of dollars a month I managed. And it was just a real fun time. And I got to learn that if you really, everyone has motivation and they all have their own self-interest. So you, to be a really good leader, to be a really good delegator, you need to understand how to convey that what they're doing for you solves what they want to do in their own self.
Gotcha. That's good. I like that.
So for me, for example, for Mary, who's one of my virtual assistants who does my social media, she loves social media. She loves marketing. She wants to learn Facebook ads. So for her, I say, look, let's get you trained up on doing some of these cool Facebook things and getting this. And then once you're ready, once you feel comfortable with that, let's look into getting you into some Facebook ads training. So see, what I'm doing is I'm front facing it. I'm future pacing it, saying, look, do this really well, and we'll start working on things that you are really passionate about.
Plus, that education's only going to benefit you as well, too. Sure, she benefits from, you getting her that training later is only going to make her more valuable to you. That's great.
Damn.
That's awesome. It's a 2-win,
It's a win-win. Yeah. Exactly. And here's the thing, though. That's why it's even more important to be a really good leader, a really good delegator. That's something that I go inside my program a lot, is because a lot about outsourcing, a lot about building a team is actually not about them at all. It's about you. Right. And it's about what you offer them and understanding what their true needs are in life. Because, see, once you train someone to be super valuable, a lot of people are worried that, oh my gosh, I've trained this person all this stuff. Now they're going to leave and do their own thing.
Yeah.
Which is a reality if you're not a great leader. And they said, why would I work for you and do this when I can make, 10 times more working for myself, right? So you have to be really relationshipable. I guess that's probably not
We're going to call that a word. We're going to call it a word.
You have to be focused on the relationship and the value that both of you bring to the table. And that's how you foster real long relationships. I've got people on my team that have been working with me since the beginning, 4 or 5 years. I've got a VA, Redora, who basically is my VA for life. And she told me, if anything ever happened, I quit my business or I close it down, she's like, I'm going to be your VA for life. Like, no matter where you go. And she knew it was a threat, so.
So one question here. Some business people and entrepreneurs, because it's their baby, because it's their business, because they can't love it and no one can love it as much as them, they have trouble letting go of the reins. What would you say to someone like that? Because I think that really everyone needs a VA in their business, no matter how big or small.
You hit the perfect question to hit for the last question. I mean, there's nothing that could have been better than that, because that is an excuse that I hear a lot. And I'll tell you the truth. I'm a control freak. I am. I struggle with the same thing as the person you just described, which might be you, but if the really important piece is, if you are delegating correctly, you do retain control. You do retain control. And by doing so is making sure that there's a mentality that you have to do this correctly, which is, when you hire someone, they are not a replacement for you. They are an extension of you.
I like that.
So what that means from a philosophy standpoint is, you empower someone to basically serve as an arm of what you're doing.
Nice.
And making sure that you have proper communication, making sure you have the right tools in your business to get set up. That's going to ease that. It's going to make you look really good. It's going to make them feel really happy about working for you. And most importantly, you're going to see results. I always hire on results based, and that's how everyone should hire. I don't care if it's hourly, project based, whatever, results.
Nice. Now, as far as your stuff, if someone wanted to come search you out or find out more, because we've talked a lot of subjects and covered a lot of ground in this quick podcast, and you're obviously an expert in that. Where would they go? How do they find you? Tell us some of your stuff. So
well, first off, thank you so much for having me. And again, I'll send you, when we're done with this, I'll send you over some links so you guys make sure to download these guides.
Perfect.
They're completely free. You guys can download these. And then when you download these, there's a link to my free training too. So go ahead and make sure that happens. But just if you guys are ever out and about, if you feel that you're overworked in your business, if you feel stressed, if you have a brother or a sister or an uncle or a best friend or maybe a business partner that feels that way, I guarantee you, download these things and get on the training. And even if if all you did was show up for the first half hour, I guarantee you there's going to be something in there that could definitely change the direction that you're going in your business.
That's awesome.
I have a very successful business, VA staffer. It's coming up on $500,000 this year. And 2018, I've got really big plans. I put the 910 Life together because I genuinely want to save people from themselves and get out of their own way. And for me, I've had the pleasure of traveling and meeting a lot of entrepreneurs. I've been to plenty of masterminds and events, and you can tell just by walking around the room. The recurring theme is that people are overworked.
Yeah, for sure.
They're either burnt out or they're on the edge of burnout. And that's what I think we have to fix as a society of entrepreneurs. America, we work too hard. And I'm the anti-hustler. Matter of fact, if you go into Google, if you go and type in the anti-hustler, it's going to go to my website. I'm not even kidding. That's for real.
That's great, brother.
Because, Gary V, Grant Cardone, I love you guys, but the hustle, it's just not worth it, guys. We have to have health. We have to have balance. And you can definitely have the same amount of output as you're doing right now and hire someone to do that other 20 hours of your 60-hour work week. So focus on working smarter and not working harder.
Perfect. And before we wrap this up, do you have any hacks or anything like an automation that you could recommend for my listeners to just make their life easier when it comes to VAs or basically anything when it comes to automation just to make life easier, brother?
I'll go back to what I said earlier about hiring people. When you hire somebody, instill this little tiny trick.
Nice.
Put a field in for them to submit a video introduction.
Gotcha. I like the videos.
That will filter out a lot of people, and it will also give you the ability to understand who they are. And like I said earlier, depending if it's a techie job, they're probably not going to do it. But if you're hiring an executive VA or an admin VA, someone who's going to be helping you and maybe speak to people on your behalf, make sure that you understand them, make sure that they speak good English, and also just make sure that you have a process. So even if it's a Google form, make sure that you have a process.
Perfect. Man, I really appreciate you being on today. These have been some value bombs, ladies and gentlemen. So Automation Nation, make sure you put some comments down below. Let Jeff know how much you appreciated all this information. And we're going to get out of here. Hey, Automation Nation, keep those automations rolling and make a difference in the world. And with that, we are out of here.